There is a bright pink sign under the awning at Third Wave Coffee Outlet in Indranagar. It says Third Rush, and it is a sign for desserts. The menu runs to around 200 items, from a gem jam tres leches to a pineapple cake. The same pink signs have gone up in Koramangala, Sadashivnagar, and Vijaya Bank layout. By the end of the year, Third Wave wants Third Rush inside about 50 cafes. This is a coffee chain that is betting big on cake, and it caps a long run of reinventions. First, Third Wave wanted outlets right beside Starbucks. Then it packed its food menu with pizzas and paneer tikka wraps. And now the whole push is dessert. Here's the thing about coffee: people don't actually drink that much of it. A rival chain's founder said it plainly to my colleague, the Ken reporter Nuha Bubere. No coffee place can live on coffee alone. The real game is getting more money out of every customer who walks in. That pressure is real for Third Wave because in FY 2024, the company lost 110 crore rupees on a revenue of around 240 crores. Close to 70% of its stores were losing money. And this came after it had raised nearly 665 crore rupees, which is about $70 million dollars, across 10 funding rounds. Investors were naturally getting nervous. So the company brought in a fixer, Rajat Luthra, who was the former head of KFC India, and he took over as the CEO. Third Rush is basically his brainchild, which is why the desserts need to pull a much bigger job than you would imagine for this coffee chain. They are meant to fix the business itself. Cakes, though, are tricky. Fresh ingredients spoil, wastage adds up, and holding quality steady across dozens of outlets is hard. So, one question hangs over Third Rush. Is this the bet that finally turns Third Wave around, or is it the more shiny distraction that is pulling the chain away from what it was built to be? Welcome to Daybreak, a business podcast from the Ken. I'm your host Nigda Sharma, and I don't chase the news cycle. Instead, every day of the week, my colleague Rachel Varghese and I will come to you with one business story that's worth understanding and worth your time. Today is Thursday, the 23rd of July. So, why desserts of all things? Think about how people drink coffee these days. Many people want less caffeine, especially later in the day, and that leaves cafes quiet by the evening. Third Wave needed a reason for people to walk in at 7 p.m. So the idea basically grew out of ice cream. Third Wave already sold it, and customers kept asking for more variety. More flavors led to more experiments, and that opened the door to desserts. To learn the category, Third Wave's managers studied Theobroma and Magnolia Bakery. Magnolia actually became the model thanks to its fresh desserts and strong recall. That is why Third Rush sells five kinds of tres leches, Magnolia's most famous item. In fact, Third Wave even hired Magnolia's former head baker Ram Pravesh Gupta as its executive pastry chef. The margins help explain the excitement. Food earns Third Wave the least, around 15 to 25%. Coffee sits higher at 25 to 35%. Desserts and seasonal drinks clear 50%, and they climb even higher when the cafe bakes them in house. A footfall problem sits underneath all of this. Third Wave's average outlet pulls in about 15 lakh rupees a month. For comparison, a mature blue tokai store does 25 to 30 lakhs. So Third Wave has to sweat its space harder. Its cafes run large, 500 to 1500 square feet, far bigger than a typical Theobroma. Those 200 dessert items are expected to lift revenue by about 20% on top of coffee. Divanshu Datta of the consulting firm Third Eyesight framed the logic well. Desserts and specialty drinks carry similar margins, so cake earns its keep another way. It lifts the average bill and keeps the cafe busy. He said Third Rush runs on impulse, giving cafe goers a social reason to step in beyond coffee. But to really understand the gamble, you have to look at the man who's making it. More on him in the next segment.
Hi, it's Brady here. You haven't heard my voice on Daybreak before, but I work with the Ken's podcasters, including Snigdha and Rachel. I'm interrupting Daybreak right now because our podcast team is hiring for 2 roles, and you or someone you know might be a good fit. The first is the producer for Intermission, which is our ultra long form video podcast where we cover one company per episode. The producer ties the whole team together and makes sure we meet every deadline and that each episode's release goes smoothly. This involves a lot of talking to people and influencing your colleagues, as well as using your judgment to solve problems before they happen. The second role is the audio production intern. I feel like this one is self-explanatory, but basically you would help our brilliant technical producer, Rajiv, clean up recordings and keep our studio running. You'll get exposure to a range of podcast formats, and I'm sure you'll finish the internship with a nice portfolio. Links to the details and to apply to these jobs are in the show notes. And if you know someone who might be interested, send them our way. Thanks.
For years, under the founder Sushant Goyal, Third Wave expanded fast and bled money. Investor trust slipped, which is why the company brought in Rajat Luthra, the former head of KFC India, as the CEO. Luthra went after the costs. He standardized the menu across every outlet. Each item now has a written recipe written down to the milliliters of milk and the ounces of coffee in a cappuccino. The cost of opening a new cafe dropped from about 1.5 crore rupees under Goyal to 80 lakhs under Luthra. The results also showed up. In the financial year 2025, losses narrowed to 94 crore rupees on a revenue of 285 crores. More than 90% of cafes are now profitable at the store level. In the financial year 2026, the top line grew 25% while the losses shrank, and Third Wave opened 84 new cafes. It plans another 100 this year. Luthra says that the company should turn profitable by the end of this financial year. If it does, it would be a first because no coffee chain in India makes money yet. Even Starbucks, more than a decade with the Tata Group, is still in the red. Third Rush was Luthra's idea. He kept it as a separate brand on purpose. So a food push would leave the Third Wave name clean. Investors are listening. The company is in talks to raise $100 million from existing backers, Westbridge and Craiggis, to grow Third Rush. Here is the tension though. All of this efficiency has changed how Third Wave feels. New outlets are smaller and more uniform. One former manager said that the cafes now look more like a KFC than a Starbucks. Discounts and buy one get one deals have crept in. Luthra waves off the worry and notes that the deals are not daily. The Wednesday offer for one exists to pull in traffic on a slow midweek day. And then comes the harder question of identity. Theo Broma sold to Christ Capital for more than 2,000 crore rupees, so desserts can clearly build real value. That took 13 years though, and a firm belief that dessert was the whole point. People walk into Theo Broma for cake, they walk into Third Wave for coffee. Turning one to the other is the climb that Third Rush faces. And Third Wave has built a habit worth noting. It chased Starbucks locations when it expanded and then borrowed Blue Tokai's food playbook. And now it is trailing Magnolia and Theobroma into dessert. This time, the plan does look sharper and a strong product could truly pull people in. But it is also possible that it turns into one more detour away from what Third Wave set out to be. If that is how it lands, no amount of trace leches will sweeten the result.
Daybreak is produced from the newsroom of the Ken, India's first subscriber focused business news platform. What you're listening to is just a small sample of a subscriber only offerings, and a full subscription offers daily, long form feature stories, newsletters, and a whole bunch of premium podcasts. To subscribe, head to theken.com and click on the red subscribe button on the top of the website. Today's episode was hosted and produced by my colleague Snigdha Sharma and edited by Rajiv CN.